Okay, let's unpack this. We're looking today at something pretty big in the pharma world, the regulatory 4.0 transformation.
That's right. It's more than just going digital.
Yeah, we've got a whole stack of sources here talking about moving way beyond just basic compliance. It sounds like turning regulatory affairs from, a necessary burden into something strategic.
Exactly. Moving beyond compliance, as some put it. The idea is shifting away from just reacting when rules change. Regulatory 4.0 is about using AI predictive tools to get ahead of the curve.
From reactive firefighting to proactive strategy.
Precisely. It's about managing risk before it becomes a problem.
Okay, so give us a hook. What's the immediate wow factor here? I saw something about dossier generation.
Yes, that's a perfect example of the scale. Think about generating complex regulatory dossier.
Okay,
Traditionally, that could take, 3 days of intensive specialized work?
at least.
Well, AI-powered systems are now doing that same task start to finish in minutes.
Minutes from 3 days.
Minutes. That level of efficiency gain, that reduction in friction, that's what we're talking about. It shows you the potential here.
Wow. Okay. So how did this work? Is it just one piece of tech?
Not at all. It's really a framework built on 5 core pillars. We'll probably focus mostly on things like digital regulatory intelligence and predictive regulatory analytics today. These are the engines really changing how companies approach risk and compliance.
Right. So let's start with that first one, digital intelligence, understanding the rules. The foundation seems to be the RIMS, right?
Yeah.
Regulatory Information Management Systems.
Correct. RIMS.
Historically, these were just like digital filing cabinets.
Yeah.
Central places to store compliance stuff.
Pretty much. Static archives, essentially. Useful, but limited. You could search them, but they didn't do much proactively.
So what happens when AI gets layered onto that RIMS foundation?
Well, that's the transformation. The RIMS changes from that static archive into something dynamic, something predictive. Without AI, you're doing manual updates, simple queries. With AI integrated, you suddenly unlock enhanced capabilities. Predictive analytics becomes possible.
Right.
Which then allows for much higher levels of automation across regulatory tasks. Your monitoring efficiency goes way up, and crucially, you get scalability.
Meaning you can handle more regulations, more countries.
Exactly. Global compliance across hundreds of markets simultaneously, which was almost unthinkable before.
Okay, and you mentioned speed. I saw a stat about NLP, natural language processing, being used for detecting changes in regulations.
Yes, NLP is absolutely key here for speed.
How does that work? How does it deliver such big time savings?
So NLP allows the AI to not just store documents, but to actually read and understand them. We're talking complex legal text, regulatory updates, proposed rules, final mandates.
Across different languages too, presumably.
Often, yes.
Yeah.
So the system scans these vast volumes of text constantly. It parses, categorizes, and identifies the relevant changes almost instantly.
And compared to people doing this manually.
The data shows it enables a 60x faster identification of relevant changes. 60 times.
60 times faster. That's staggering. That completely changes the game for compliance teams.
It really does. It means companies aren't waiting for the official announcement or the enforcement priorities to hit the news.
They know almost as it's happening, or even as it's being proposed.
Exactly. They can build proactive planning right into their development cycle long before something becomes a hard requirement.
And that proactive ability, that must translate into a real competitive edge, right?
Absolutely. If you can accurately forecast a new regulatory requirement 6 months out, you can adjust your manufacturing, tweak your trial design.
While your competitor's still figuring out what the new rule even means?
Precisely. You shorten your time to market significantly. It's using compliance as a form of competitive intelligence.
Okay, so if you can spot these changes 60 times faster, the next logical step is dealing with the paperwork, the submissions, which must also get easier.
That's the next bottleneck to tackle, yes. Documentation has always been a huge resource drain.
And it seems like the regulators themselves are pushing this. I saw a note about the FDA.
Yes, the FDA's early adoption is a really important signal. They ran an AI-assisted scientific review pilot program.
What did that involve?
They used generative AI models. These models helped draft summaries of complex data submitted to them, and importantly, they could automatically flag things like missing safety endpoints in the submissions.
And the result?
Reviewers were completing these specific review tasks in minutes, where previously it might have taken days.
Wow. So if the FDA itself is seeing that kind of speed up,
the industry really has to pay attention and follow suit. It demonstrates the validity and the power of the technology.
So how quickly are companies actually adopting these kinds of automated writing tools?
Adoption is picking up fast. We're seeing figures around an 85% adoption rate for automated regulatory writing assistance.
85%. And how good is it? Is it making mistakes?
Well, the reported accuracy is impressive around 90% in document generation. But maybe the most compelling figure for, budgets and timelines is an 80% reduction in document preparation time.
80% less time spent writing and compiling.
Yes, and critically, it uses domain-specific knowledge bases trained on pharmaceutical regulations and science to ensure consistency. That's vital when you're submitting highly technical documents to dozens of agencies worldwide simultaneously.
Consistency is huge for global approvals, definitely. But what about trust? Pharma is built on data integrity. If AI is writing and managing documents, how do you ensure everything is secure, auditable, tamper-proof?
That's a critical question. It's addressed by layering technologies. The base layer is often electronic document management automation that's got almost universal adoption, like 95% within these R4.0 initiatives. That's where a lot of the 80% manual effort reduction comes from.
Okay, basic document management, but the tamper-proofing,
That's where things like blockchain-based audit trail systems come in.
blockchain, like cryptocurrencies.
Sort of, but the underlying technology. Using blockchain creates an immutable record. Once a piece of data, a process step, a document version is logged on the chain, it cannot be altered or deleted without detection.
So it provides a completely verifiable history.
Exactly. Full traceability. It meets those incredibly stringent data integrity requirements that regulators demand for every single submission. It proves the document hasn't been messed with.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense for the digital side. Documents, submissions, data. But you said this isn't just back office stuff. Let's pivot to the physical world. The factory floor, manufacturing. How does R 4.0 show up there?
Right. This is where it gets really interesting. The convergence of IT and OT, operational technology. We're talking about the Internet of Things, IoT.
Okay.
First, on the intelligence side, nearly everyone, something like 88% of pharma companies are using real-time, 247 monitoring systems that scan regulatory databases, government sites, and send instant alerts if something changes.
So that's the digital intelligence feeding into operations. But what about controlling the manufacturing process itself? GMP, good manufacturing practice.
That's where IoT-enabled GMP compliance monitoring comes in, and the adoption there is also really high, around 92% in manufacturing settings.
92% using IoT for GMP. What does that look like? Sensors everywhere.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Extensive networks of sensors monitoring all the critical parameters in real time. Temperature, humidity, air pressure in clean rooms, particulate levels, minute by minute, second by second.
Okay, so let's say a sensor detects a temperature spike in a sensitive area. What happens then? Does an alarm just go off?
It can, but the real power is in the automation. The system doesn't just detect, it can act. That's compliance automation.
So the system itself takes corrective action.
Yes. If it detects a deviation, say, that temperature spike or a pressure drop in a sterile zone, it can automatically trigger corrective actions. Maybe adjusting the HVAC system, maybe diverting a product batch, maybe initiating a cleaning cycle, often without any human needing to intervene immediately.
And the impact of that.
The result has been achieving environmental compliance rates around 99.9%.
Wait, 99.9% compliance on environmental parameters.
That's the reported figure. Think about what that means for preventing batch loss due to environmental failures. It's almost eliminating it.
That's huge. The cost of losing a batch can be astronomical.
Exactly. And underpinning this are automated deviation detection systems. They use machine learning.
How so?
The ML algorithms learn the normal operating patterns of the equipment and the environment. If something starts to drift, even slightly, before it hits a critical out-of-spec limit,
Or flags it early.
it flags it or can even trigger a preemptive corrective action. And of course, every detection, every action is logged automatically, creating that comprehensive audit trail needed for regulators.
That level of control and early warning,
Yeah,
it's just impossible with manual checks.
completely different paradigm.
So pulling back from the factory floor,
Yeah.
what does all this, the predictive intelligence, the automation, the IoT control mean at the strategic level for the C-suite planning, launches, and investments?
This is where Regulatory 4.0 moves beyond just efficiency and becomes a major commercial advantage. Take regulatory approval timeline forecasting.
Predicting how long it will take to get a drug approved.
Yes. By feeding historical data, agency performance trends, even the specifics of the submission itself into AI models, companies are reporting about a 70% improvement in the accuracy of their approval timeline forecasts.
70% more accurate on predicting approval dates. That must have a massive impact on planning.
Huge. Think about clinical trial design, resource allocation, supply chain planning, market launch campaigns. You can make much smarter, more confident decisions if you have a better handle on that critical approval date.
It allows much better pipeline optimization. What about companies operating globally? The nightmare of different rules in every country.
Ah, yes, the global harmonization challenge. That's where we see global regulation harmonization analytics tools.
Sounds like something regulatory affairs folks dream about.
Probably. These systems are designed to cut through that complexity. They create unified dashboards, analyzing requirements across potentially hundreds of countries.
How effective are they?
Reports suggest they can reduce that multi-market complexity by around 45%. They instantly highlight where regulations align between countries and, crucially, where they diverge on critical points.
That must be incredibly valuable for planning global trials
Yeah.
or seeking simultaneous approvals.
Absolutely. It streamlines the entire global development and submission strategy. Less rework, fewer surprises.
So you get better coordination, more accurate timelines. Can these systems also look further ahead? Predict where regulations might go in the future, not just where they are now?
Yes, that's the next level of foresight. Regulatory impact assessment AI systems.
How do they work?
They analyze broader trends, not just published rules, but policy papers, draft legislation, scientific discussions, even political shifts globally. They aim to predict future requirements based on the direction policy seems to be heading.
So anticipating, say, a future mandate for a specific type of safety reporting.
Exactly, or stricter environmental controls. This allows companies to start adapting their strategies before a mandate is even drafted, let alone finalized. It offers a real competitive edge through strategic foresight, moving beyond simple compliance again.
Okay, the industry is clearly moving fast, but regulation is a two-way street. What about the regulators themselves? The FDA, EMA, and Europe? Are they keeping pace? Are they using these tools too?
They absolutely are, and they're quite open about it. The FDA, for instance, has set a really ambitious public goal: implement AI across all its centers by June 30, 2025.
That's soon.
It is. And to show they're serious, they appointed Jeremy Walsh as their very first chief AI officer. That signals it's a top-level strategic priority for them modernizing their own processes.
What about internationally, Europe?
The European Medicines Agency, the EMA, is also deeply engaged. They've published an AI reflection paper mapping out their thinking and have a detailed work plan running through 2028.
So they're planning strategically too.
Yes, but there's a really important angle, especially with the new EU AI Act coming into force. AI systems used specifically in pharmaceutical quality control, think manufacturing, batch release, are being explicitly classified as high risk under that act.
High risk. What does that designation mean in practice?
It means intense scrutiny, mandatory, robust risk assessments, strict requirements for transparency in how the AI works, rigorous validation before they can be deployed, human oversight requirements.
So innovation, yes, but with very strong safety guardrails.
Exactly. It ensures that as the industry adopts these powerful autonomous systems, the regulatory oversight evolves alongside it to maintain public safety and trust.
Makes sense. So looking even further out now, beyond what's being implemented today,
Yeah.
what's on the horizon? What emerging tech might shape the next generation? Regulatory 5.0 maybe?
Well, two areas consistently top up in future gazing. First, quantum computing.
Quanta for regulation.
Potentially, yes. For solving incredibly complex optimization problems that are just too hard for current classical computers. Think optimizing global supply chains against thousands of shifting regulatory constraints simultaneously, or maybe even complex molecular modeling relevant to regulatory science. It's still early days, but the potential is there.
Okay, quantum is one. What's the other?
The other, which feels a bit closer perhaps, is the deeper integration of digital twins.
We hear that term a lot. So virtual copies of everything.
Pretty much. A digital twin in this context could be a dynamic virtual replica of your entire drug development program.
The clinical trials, the manufacturing process, the regulatory pathway, all simulated.
Correct. You could use this twin to run complex what-if scenarios. What happens if this regulation changes? What's the risk profile if we alter this manufacturing step? You get real-time insights into regulatory impacts without touching a physical asset or running a real trial. It's the ultimate simulation and planning tool.
Wow. Okay, so let's try and wrap some of this up. If we look at all the numbers we've discussed, the speed gains, the accuracy, the automation, what's the big picture ROI for companies embracing Regulatory 4.0?
The aggregate figures are pretty compelling. Sources point towards things like a 75% reduction in overall compliance risk,
75% risk reduction.
around 90% improvements in accuracy for documentation and data handling, and significantly accelerated development and submission timelines across the board.
So faster, cheaper, safer, essentially.
And ultimately delivering superior quality submissions, which helps build trust with regulators and provides a sustainable competitive advantage.
Okay, so if we take that final step, we combine the AI, the predictive analytics, maybe these future digital twins,
Mhm.
the end goal seems to be heading towards truly autonomous regulatory systems.
That seems to be the trajectory. Systems that don't just execute tasks, but continuously monitor the environment, adapt to changes, self-correct based on performance, and actively optimize the company's regulatory strategy with minimal human intervention for the day-to-day stuff.
The system handles the mechanics, the execution, the tracking.
Right. And the human expert's role shifts. It moves from being the person doing the tasks to the person defining the strategy, setting the parameters, overseeing the system's goals.
Which brings us, I guess, to the final thought for you, our listener, to mull over. If these regulatory systems do become largely autonomous, self-optimizing, handling all the complex compliance details, the documentation, the forecasting, almost perfectly.
Yeah, what's left for the humans?
Exactly. What becomes the new core role for human regulatory expertise? Is it perhaps less about the how of compliance and more about defining the ethical boundaries of drug development? Or setting the high-level strategic goals within this incredibly efficient, maybe even self-correcting technological ecosystem? That shift from operational execution to strategic and ethical oversight, that feels like the ultimate transformation Regulatory 4.0 points towards.